WD-40 something-ish coming to you from my dining room where I'm enjoying some athletic greens. Today's project is going to be to install a lock on the pocket door that leads to my wife's office right behind me here. The pocket door already had hardware on it. As you can see, it has this pull, but no locking mechanism. Now, the unfortunate thing is what I bought to replace it, which I've marked out here, is going to leave a little room which I'm going to have to fill behind. And also here on the front of the door or face of the door, I'm going to have to fill in some of those areas, which will allow me to utilize my wonderful skills with Bondo and other fillers. First things first, we warm up the saw. I measured the height of the hardware on another pocket door that we have in our house. The bottom of the hardware is at 3 feet. And you'll see that this bottom line here, which would indicate the bottom of the hardware basically is around 3 feet as well. My concern is really like, okay, I'm gonna cut this block out with a jigsaw, but that's a hole through here. Like I'm gonna have to fill this area and some of the sort of face of the door as well. But I'm sure I can do it. Let's get started with making some cuts. So the instructions call for the cut to be 1.75 inches wide. And that puts me right on the kind of like right here where you see on the T-square. So this is gonna be a little interesting. Part of me is like, maybe I should install the pocket door hardware a little higher on the door or not where pocket door hardware had been before. But I like this height, so I'm gonna give it a shot and work with whatever comes. I put some pea gravel here to secure the door, and I'm gonna use the jigsaw to cut out this notch right here for the hardware. I feel pretty good about that cut, so let's size up the hardware, see how well it fits, and figure out what I need to backfill. All right, let's see how this thing fits. Not too bad. I just need to find some wood scraps to fill in the previous handle holds on this side and the other side, and in here too. Well, here we go. This is where things get creative. Down here in the workshop. All right. I just came across some of these things, which feel like, I guess they were previously some shims, door shims, but I think they'll work good for the purpose of doing some fill. I've got a couple pieces of shim. These will definitely do the trick. As you can see, thickness is close. So I'm gonna just cut general shape of this, I hope, using got a saw that I can use. That's what I'm trying to say, folks. I got a saw that I can use. And let's see. All right. Oh, look at me go with this thing. I am loving this. That looks pretty close. We'll see. I can always sand or file or whatever to get it to fit. Ooh, not bad. I can live with that. Let's see if it fits on the other side as well. Because there, yes it does. Okay. Great. I found my Gorilla Glue, and I'm gonna glue the first of these in position, and I'm gonna let that cure and probably do the other side of the door. All right, solid filler there. Solid filler there. I'm gonna do the same thing and attach it on the other side. Look what I found. That's gonna help make this nice. Oh yes, great. While this dries, I'm gonna find some filler pieces to kind of like close up there. All right, the sticky is upside down, stuck to here, and this gives me an opportunity. How would this work? To sort of trace, yeah, that's how it works. The space that I need to fill. And then of that, there's a deeper section which starts about there. Yeah, well, let's see how that turns out. All right, I cut this little chunk, this little tidbit, and it looks like it can fit it in. I have this thinner shim too, which will work perfect to cover this area here. That worked, so I've marked the bottom. I'm gonna cut this too, and I'm gonna glue this in place and then handle the top. Beautiful. Last piece is up here. I'm gonna measure that. Oh, let's just do that now. Make sure that that fits in there, which it does. Actually, this can actually be a little long, which it most likely will be. Perfect. I'm gonna go down, use an X-Acto knife and cut that, and then glue it in place. All right, here's the last piece. It's got glue on it. It fits. I know it in my gut. And yeah, we're good. I think that looks great. So I'm gonna let this dry, which is being clamped, and I'm gonna wanna add another layer on top before I use wood filler. I took the clamp off and it's looking pretty good. So I have 2 pieces of filler material to kind of close in the gap over there and on the other side. And I'm gonna glue those into place and clamp it and then let everything dry before the next stage. Okay, I got some glue on this. Really? All right, last shim. I marked the top and the bottom on this one. I've given the filler pieces adequate time to dry, at least in my estimation. And I want to just try and see how this fits. Looks great. So the internet has greenlit my use of Bondo to fill in the gaps that are surrounding this door hardware. So I'm going to mix them up and apply it. Here we go. I love working with Bondo. I have since my college days.
It's a brand new day, and I've begun to sand the Bondo. Last night I put one more coat of Bondo over the door. I'll show you what that looks like, and I'm going to sand it down and see if it doesn't need one more coat before I prime and paint. Here's the door with a few coats of Bondo on it. I've begun to sand with 180 grit paper. I'm using a sanding block I found in the basement. I'm going to try and feather this out and probably put one more coat on before priming and painting.
Put the last coat of Bondo on both sides, and I think that this is going to sand out really nicely. I've located some paint to use in the basement, and I'm going to sand it one last time and then do a base coat. I put on the respirator to do the sanding of the Bondo. I really don't need that stuff in my lungs, and neither do you, so I'd recommend using something similar. There comes a time in a project's life when you just need to call it. I had put the final coat of the Bondo on both sides, and I've sanded it down. It's blended in pretty nicely, so now I'm going to clean it up and paint it. I've got some isopropyl alcohol and a paper towel here, and I'm just gonna rub down this area where, in theory, I will be painting to remove any dust particles that might affect how the paint goes down. I got a lot of excess paint in my basement, and it's not properly labeled because it was done by a wide variety of different contractors. I've chosen one that looks like it could be a good fit, so we'll start here. I'm judging that based on, the dried paint on the side of the can, of course. I found a couple brushes that might be suitable for the job. I've mixed up this paint, which I hope is a general match, and I will now apply the first coat to each side. Dug deep into the basement. I've got another white I'm going to try that hopefully looks a little better than what I got on the door right now for my second coat. The second coat is pretty dry, so we're going to install the hardware now. Yeah, it looks good. The second coat looks pretty good too, so I'm going to screw this into place. This is held in place by 2 provided wood screws. We're gonna test to make sure that the latching mechanism works, which it does, you can hear it. And then we're gonna close this so that the locking mechanism closed like this. I ran the door a number of times into the jamb, and then I measured where the latch plate should be. So it's gonna sit somewhere in the middle where it's being struck. All right, that looks to be the right height. There are 3 different score marks corresponding to whether I'm trying to close it on the inside or the outside. So I'm gonna put this in place. Oops, if I can. With the strike plate in place, I'm going to score the outline with a utility knife. I backed out the 2 screws, and I can temporarily remove the mounting plate. I'm going to drill a hole for the locking latch and use these lines to chisel out an area so that the mounting plate sits flush. It calls for a 15/16 bit, which I don't have right now. So I'm lining up the plate and giving my best guess as to where I should drill. And I'm going to back this out, remove the plate, and send it, so to speak. It generally looks like it'll work. Should be deep enough too. We'll see. I've gone around and used this chisel and a mallet to score these lines. And now I'm going to try and chisel out that middle piece, which should be kind of challenging, I'm guessing. We'll speed this up so you can get a general idea of the process. So as you can see, I chiseled this out slow and steady. I went a little wide, as you can see over there, so I'm going to use some paint to just touch up that area, and then I'm going to mount the strike plate. I touched things up with some paint. Lastly, I'm going to screw this plate into place, and we'll test everything out to see how it works. Let's give it a whirl and see how it all turned out. Oh yes, can't open that. Pretty good. Looks good, functions well. Yeah. Job well done.